My name is Kirsy Espejo, and I am the founder of Kind Wholeness, a nonprofit organization that focuses on bringing wellness education to the masses around the physical wellness, your mind, your emotional, and the social wellness.
What inspired you to create the nonprofit?
Oh, wow. In my 20 years plus of working with individuals in the professional environment, particularly in the financial industry, one of the things that I experience is that we all suffer from the same symptoms. And, I'm no doctor to diagnose anything, but we all suffer from stress, feeling burned out, lack of purpose, lack of motivation. And it doesn't matter our title, how many degrees we have, the positions that we hold in any corporation. It really doesn't matter. We all suffer from the same. And that was the inspiration. One day I couldn't sleep. And, when you get that nudge, it's God talking to you. I do believe that anything that comes for good, it's it's from a higher power, a higher being. I couldn't sleep. I kid you not. I was like, what is it? What is it? And Kind Wholeness came about. It has nothing to do with me. It's not about me. It's really an organization focused on just giving back. That's how that came about.
I want to go back to something you said working in finance and, just talking about money stresses me out. How does it affect someone's life working in that industry?
Plenty. And it doesn't have to be in the financial industry.
Yeah,
Anyone that has a family that have to provide, it could be a stressful situation, whether you are in banking, when you are, and for me, it was retail banking, right? Grateful to be part of so many organizations. That's where I acquired most of my training, the coaching and development. Very grateful to those organizations. But the money part is a major factor, especially when we think of money as being the all. And part of what I do, once I understood that money is just energy, you know, yes, it's great to have, to be able to provide to your families, for yourself, etc., but it's not the all and be all, right? Part of this mission, which again, nonprofit, is to provide wellness education for free for people that cannot afford, to get the training that I have received, to meet
right.
wonderful leaders that I have met throughout my years, my mentors, etc. And that's part of it. But going back to the money, when you think of money as I need to work to money, that's when the priorities are shifted or can overwhelm you. If you're just working to get that paycheck, it's another level of stress, right? Especially if you go to your job and you are not happy in the workplace. That's an added stressor. You know, that's a different conversation. But yes, money can be very stressful, especially if you're providing for families, for yourself, and if you're not happy where you work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some of the programs or highlights of your organization?
We have some amazing programs. So particularly the self-care. I mean, we have so many series around that. Time management and wellness, which, as you know, again, coming from corporate America, and I'm still part of corporate America, time management, it's a big deal. I also subscribe to the notion of thinking that multitasking was was wonderful, right? Oh, I get to do so much, so many things. I'm now a super employee or a super mom, a super dad, you name it. But now that I have learned and continue to practice this wellness, focus, and mindfulness, really multitasking is a myth, right? So that's one of the programs that Kind Wholeness are offering right now. the time management and wellness education, self-care, emotional intelligence, how to nurture it for our little ones, because we talk about our children being the next generation, but we do so little to invest in their well-being. And it all starts with the adults. So Kind Wholeness believes in educating the adults to impact the next generation. So that's emotional intelligence. Setting healthy boundaries around impacting the next generation, because as you know, we're all addicted to the smartphone, to the gadgets, whatnot. So at Kind Wholeness, we want to promote again that wellness from a holistic approach, that there is a way to marry the two, right? We're not saying get rid of your smartphones, but we need to learn to adapt in a way that is going to enhance our lives, particularly around our well-being. Because let's face it, if you are constantly just scrolling and just focusing on that, it can become an addiction. And an addiction, it's hard to undo, if you will. So again,
Yeah.
it's not about getting rid of the gadgets. It's learning how to marry the two, especially if you want to impact the next generation, because children learn by watching, right, and hearing. And if we as role models are constantly, just paying attention to the gadget, no more eye contact, no more conversations, no more physical touch with a hug or that, being present. So that's one of the programs. Another programs is, again, we have so many different um, experts within a particular field, like the menopause awareness, or the movement specialist that teaches Pilates and yoga and different movements, because as you know, Kind Wholeness focuses on 4 pillars, which is the mind, the physical, the emotional, and the social wellness that we have forgotten after COVID, as an example. So those are some, to name a few.
What is it like helping others?
For me, it's really gratifying. Gratifying, as I mentioned, working with many individuals. You realize it's not about the money. For me, it's about impacting someone's life in a larger scope, right? So yes, I've been in banking, leading branches, leading individuals. But what I learned was when I was having those one-on-ones with those employees, yes, we were talking about work, but I learned that those behaviors that I was teaching in the banking field, they could apply it to back to their homes, to their families, to their communities. So what it does to me, it's another level of satisfaction. When I see others do well and they send me that text, that email, oh my God, I practiced this with my daughter. I am now a better father because of your input and development. I am now able to work out a little bit more because of your time management expertise and what you have, taught me to bring about in my day-to-day, because it is possible to bring wellness in your day-to-day routine. You see, many times we wait for a vacation, right, to be able to enjoy life. But I mean, right now I'm in South Florida. We have the beach. We
Yeah.
have the beautiful, places. It's like paradise. But what do? We wait for a vacation. And some of us have worked so hard to get that vacation break that once we are in that space of vacation, we get sick. Why do you think we get sick? Because it was too late. Our bodies,
Yeah.
it's too late. Our bodies is telling us, you're burned out. Just rest. So whatever you had planned during that vacation, you end up not doing, because your body is simply telling you to rest, right? But imagine if you can rest throughout your day, throughout your week. So going to that vacation is just an enhancement to your well-being. A lot of times we come back from a vacation and we have the flu. Now we have to call out sick. Do you understand? So if we don't adopt these wellness tips, you know, this self-care that we promote here at Kind Wholeness, if we don't adapt this now, all we're doing is making matters worse.
Yeah.
Or sometimes we wait for that doctor's note that tells us you now have arthritis, you now have high cholesterol, you now have well, you can see back pain, you know. But we're not moving in our day to day. And I'm talking about intentional movements like stretch. What about hydrating? These are the things that we forget because we are so much in our day to day. And a lot of it, and that's when I'm doing one-on-ones with individuals, I help them realize that it's deeper than just, okay, I forget to drink water. But during the deconstructing and the conversations and the work, we find out that it's really from our upbringing, right? Particularly if you're a minority female like myself, you are taught to just work, work, work. Or if you're a parent, God forbid if you take a break in the middle of the day, because you have to provide for your children, for your family. So you are no longer a priority, you know? You have to wait 6 months or 3 months to go on that vacation that I was mentioning, right? So it's a lot to do with our conditioning as well. You know, we're taught to just do versus pausing, being. One of the things that I promote is if you work from 9 to 5, right? Maybe at 4:30, pause and reflect. Reflect and look at your schedule for the next day. You know, find out what meetings you have the next day as an example, right? Find out if you need to now call a friend or a cousin to pick up your child because you're not going to make it on, in time for dinner as an example. Because asking for help is a sign of strength. But again, in my culture, we're taught to asking for help is a sign of weakness. So that's another conversation. So, it's more than let's get the app to remind us to hydrate or to stretch. But if you don't do the work in understanding why you're not putting yourself first, why this is not a priority, why you're just getting sick every week, there's a reason for that. So at Kind Wholeness, we do things to prevent the doctor's note, to prevent popping pills. If these are some things that you can do on a day-to-day, why not? Why not?
Yeah, I talk to nonprofits in the mental health field, and they talk a lot about the big picture or policy. But as someone who I live with bipolar disorder too, and with lived experience, I'm thinking more of the smaller things like making sure I get out of bed and not be depressed, or when I hear a negative comment, make sure it doesn't ruin my day.
Yeah.
So how important is it to focus on the little things as opposed to just the big things?
100%. And I want to commend you for the work that you do
Oh,
because
thank you.
precisely you have identified your purpose, right? And your purpose is to give back. That automatically having a sense of purpose, will allow you to get up in the bed, out of the bed, will allow
Right.
you to think, wait a minute, I have to show up for my communities, for my families, for the people that I serve. So if you follow Kind Wholeness, there's a video about finding your purpose. And we talk about the little things that you mentioned. You don't have to be a millionaire to think that now that's your purpose, right? Or you don't have to be a celebrity to identify that's your purpose, as an example. But just, I tell people, find something that you love to do and do more of it, right? If it's not part of your 9 to 5, then you know that perhaps at 6, do maybe from 6 to 7 that thing that you love, right? It may be crocheting. It may be an instrument, right? Playing an instrument. Do more of it to the point that you may have acquired a community, your audience, whatever it is, that eventually you can graduate that thing that you love into a part-time, and then a full-time, and then a lifestyle. You see, so finding your purpose is one way that can inspire you, that can motivate you to wake up in the morning, right? You mentioned the negative self-talk. That is huge. You see, we are taught that we are not good enough if we are not multitasking, if we are not
Right.
producing, if we are not doing and doing. I know so many people that continue to go back to school, get that degree, that PhD, another PhD, and they still have not found their purpose, have not found their value. A lot of times they continue to get that degree just because that's what they were taught to do. If you don't have a PhD, you're not good enough. If you don't have that certificate, you are worthless, as an example. And some cultures are more to the extreme than others, right? So that is how we're able to help. That negative talk, and we do it in the most subtle ways. Oh my God, I forgot to reply to this email. Oh, I'm terrible. The moment you say that to yourself, that is what you're manifesting, that you are terrible. So
Yeah.
we practice just pausing, right? And having that schedule, and again, that time management to take control of your day to day, not let your day to day things take control over you. So when you identify that you forgot something, it could just be, let me just pause and accept, okay, I forgot to send that email, right? Let me just either send it now at this moment or put a reminder to send it because I need to do some work, before I send that email. So don't beat yourself up because you forgot to do something, because you forgot to send that email to your kid's teacher, as an example, or you forgot to follow up with an important client. Own it, right? Apologize and move on. Move on from that. But to make yourself feel like you're lesser than, or that you're not good enough because you forgot a simple task, all you're doing is hurting your inner self. And we don't need that. We need to be our biggest cheerleader. We need to show up for ourselves first before we can show up for other people. And this is a skill that we were never taught. So that is what kind wholeness is about, providing you with little skills, little behaviors, or activities, or habits, whatever you want to call it, to impact your well-being.
And that's so relatable. Everything you were saying in my head, I'm like, yeah, that's me. That's what I do. I need to do better at that.
We all need this, right? I am no better than the next person, right? I need it more than you. And I found my purpose, my passion,
Yeah.
which allows me to wake up in the morning, which allows me to not beat myself up, that it's okay to make mistakes, that it's okay to be humble, that it's okay to honor, myself and not let the ego take over me,
Yeah.
right? Because when we're trying so hard, when we get so disappointed, it's the other self that's causing us to produce that negative self-talk, right? It's not us because we come from a good power, right? We come from the creation, the creator. God made us to be great. So when we hear that negative self-talk, it's the ego trying to get in. So by doing these activities, such as exercising routinely, right? Connecting with friends and family, that would help with that negative self-talk, with all the feeling burned out, the stress, the anxiety. One thing that we promote is the volunteer work, which is aligned with the social wellness. Because when you are volunteering, you are connecting with new people. You are giving back, which it gives you a sense of self, a sense of purpose, a sense of belief that there's more than the 9 to 5 if you're not happy with your 9 to 5 job. There are ways to overcome those feelings, but you have to determine when you're ready. I talk to many people and I know when the person is not ready. How do I know that? They make all of the excuses on the planet. And that's okay. I just sip it, pray for them, and allow them to be. When they're ready, they reach out and I welcome them, right? No judgment. This is not about getting mad at, our ancestors, our parents for not teaching us this skill. I'm grateful to my family, right? And all of the heartaches that I endure because it made me who I am at this moment. It shaped, this work that I'm putting out. So it's not about judging. It's not about blaming. It's about accountability. So that's when I know that the person is not ready. The moment they make excuses, and it's never their fault, right? So again, I just listen and pray for them to go through this pain and come out of it asking for help, right? Hope that helps.
Yeah. What do you do to help your own mental health?
Everything that I practice right here. I practice what I preach consistently, right? Yes, if I did not make it to Pilates in the morning, I'm going to move my calendar around, move things around to make sure that I work out at least 45 minutes a day. Now, granted, if I'm not able to do the 45 minutes, it's okay to do the 5 and the 10. But me personally, I like to be in a group. So I go to a class. That works for me. But me getting a machine in my house, it doesn't motivate me, right? But everyone is different. You may get a, Peloton or whatever machine that people use these days, and that helps you. But for me, it's that group class, right? Also, the volunteer work, this helps me with my mental and well-being overall, right? The coaching sessions that I do, because as I said, when I give, I'm receiving. Just as I'm sharing, I'm learning. So it's that spirit of always being open and flexible to learn. That helps my mental health. Just being with friends and family, protecting the circle of people that care about me, right? Because people can say, yes, I'm your friend just in the social media, but it's important to honor and take care of your close circle. And sometimes what do? We don't have time. We have to produce some level of event to meet with your friends and family. And I tell people, if you have time to pee, you have time to make that phone call. So if your company, most companies give you an hour lunch. What you choose to do with that hour is totally up to you. Perhaps do 30 minutes you eat or 30 minutes of workout and then 10 minutes to eat. 5 minutes to make that phone call to vent. Venting is healthy, right? Or just to check in. You don't have to wait for a Saturday or a holiday to connect. But in our minds, we tell ourselves we're too busy, which, by the way, I have removed the word busy out of my vocabulary. So that's something that I practice, right? One of my biggest and second Bible is the Four Agreements, right? This amazing book that it was given to me when I was in my 20s. I read it when I was in my 30s. That's when I was ready to receive the message. And now in my 40s, I teach through the power of the Four Agreements. And I know them by heart, and I may not be saying it, in the same order, but the first one is to be impeccable with your words. That negative self-talk, everything that we put out and what we tell ourselves. That's the Four Agreement. The second, or again, not in that order, do not take things personal. Not everything is about me or you, right? Focus on the facts, right? To reduce the level of stress, right? So do not take things personally. The other agreement is do not assume. A lot of times we assume the worst and we tell ourselves catastrophes after catastrophe, right? And the fourth agreement is whatever you do your best. And I tell people, if I'm cleaning your toilet, it's going to be the best toilet on the planet. That's the best example that I can provide. So I live by those four agreements. So that's how I keep up with my mental health. I practice in the four principles of kind wholeness: the mind, the physical, the social, and the emotional well-being.
Where do you want to see your mission in the next 3 to 5 years?
Someone asked me this the other day, and as I said, this is not about me. This came about from a higher power. So whatever God wants to lead this mission, so be it. I'm just a vessel to the message. right? I continue to work in my corporate job, which I love, right? I do this on a volunteer basis, and I love it for all the reasons I mentioned. So, of course, we want our community to continue to grow. You know, we go to businesses, schools. That's one of the things that we're very passionate about, to impact the next generation. So we want to continue to work with the school system because, as you know, our teachers are underpaid, very little benefits, very little support. So Kind Wholeness shows up in the schools to provide that lifeline, or that they say, fresh air, or that breath that, yes, I matter, I exist. So yes, we want to continue to work with the schools to prevent burned out in educators and our faculty staff from the schools, because we need it. They need to be on point to be able to show up for, to our children, to impact the next generation. So that's huge. So whatever God wants to take this mission, we welcome it.
So how can people reach out and learn more?
Kindwholeness.com. When you go to kindwholeness.com, all of the social media buttons will be there, right? And subscribe so that you can get those reminders, the newsletters, and just stay up to date with our events, to be able to volunteer and give back, to be able to invest in yourself. You know, we provide so many free workshops, but again, it could be free, but if you don't have the mindset of, I need to invest in my well-being, you're not going to schedule to be there in those workshops. You're not going to think this is important because you still haven't decided that you matter. You still haven't received that doctor's note, unfortunately, right? So I implore people to connect, go to the website, sign up to the free events, ask questions, and be part of this great movement, because the world needs it.